Picture this. She tells you she wants a sensitive man. Someone who listens, opens up, expresses emotion. You believe her. You become honest about your fears, your sadness, your confusion. You let her see your soul, and then, slowly, she pulls away. Her eyes lose the spark they once had when she looked at you. Her voice changes, her attraction fades. You don't understand. You gave her everything she said she wanted, yet you became everything she could no longer respect. That's the paradox of modern dating. Modern women say they want emotional vulnerability, but what they actually respond to, what they feel respect for, is restraint, self-control, the ability of a man to stay composed when everything around him is chaos. Because while society tells women to admire sensitivity, their biology admires strength, and strength in the male psyche is inseparable from control. This doesn't mean women want robots. It means they crave polarity. They want to feel your emotion, not see you consumed by it. They want to sense your depth without feeling responsible for holding it. Because the moment your emotions become her burden, the polarity collapses. She shifts from feminine to masculine energy, from surrender to control, and that kills attraction instantly. The emotionless man isn't cold. He's contained. He feels everything, but he's mastered the art of not reacting. That's what creates the quiet respect you see in the way women look at him. Because emotional self-control in a man signals something primal: protection, direction, and safety. A woman can only relax when she feels that her man can handle pressure without crumbling. Think about it. The man who panics when things fall apart doesn't make her feel safe. The man who overreacts when she pulls away makes her feel trapped. The man who constantly seeks emotional reassurance from her drains her energy. But the man who stays calm, grounded, unbothered, that man becomes magnetic. Because in his stillness, she feels secure. This is the psychological dynamic that most men get wrong. You've been told that emotional openness equals intimacy, that sharing everything builds connection. But intimacy isn't built through constant emotional expression. It's built through presence. When a man can hold his emotional center, he communicates something deeper than words ever could. He says, no matter what happens, I'm in control of myself. And that's the kind of energy that commands respect, not just from women, but from everyone. Modern women are constantly surrounded by weak masculinity, men addicted to validation, men whose moods depend on attention, men who confuse vulnerability with emotional dependency. So when she meets a man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't chase, who can stand in silence without apology, her nervous system reacts differently. She may not even understand why, but she feels it, a mix of curiosity, respect, and attraction. Because calmness is rare in a world full of emotional noise. But there's a darker layer to this. Modern culture has conditioned women to equate emotional availability with love, and yet their biology still equates composure with leadership. So they end up conflicted, drawn to the man who doesn't need them, while resenting the man who does. It's not that they want an emotionless man, it's that they crave what that man represents. He represents strength in a world where most men have become emotionally chaotic. The emotionless man isn't heartless, he's disciplined. He doesn't shut off his emotions, he channels them. He turns anger into direction, pain into purpose, desire into drive. His silence isn't emptiness, it's power contained. And women can feel that energy. They respect it even if they don't understand it, because deep down, every feminine instinct is wired to seek masculine stillness. When you show too much emotion, not from honesty but from instability, you invert polarity. She stops being your partner and starts being your caretaker. She can't admire a man she has to parent, and when admiration dies, attraction dies with it. That's why the emotionless man holds power, not because he's detached, but because he refuses to let emotions dictate his actions. So when modern women say they respect men who don't show emotion, it's not about cruelty, it's about safety, it's about energy, it's about what your composure communicates. In a world drowning in impulsivity, the man who can remain calm becomes a lighthouse. And no matter how much society tries to deny it, the feminine always respects the masculine that can stand firm in the storm. She'll tell you she wants a man who's in touch with his emotions, but when you actually show them, something in her energy changes. She becomes distant. Her responses grow shorter. She doesn't say it, but you feel it. the subtle loss of respect. You think she's cold or shallow, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is neurological. It's instinctive, because in her subconscious, your emotional outpouring doesn't translate as honesty. It translates as instability. Women are emotional by nature, but they are drawn to the men who ground those emotions, not the ones who mirror them. When she's spiraling, she doesn't want another storm. She wants a mountain, a presence that absorbs the chaos without being consumed by it. And that's what an emotionless man represents, not emptiness, but steadiness. It's not that she wants you to feel nothing. It's that she wants to trust that your emotions won't drown her. She wants to know that if she collapses, you won't collapse with her. That if she loses control, you won't. That's why men who remain calm during arguments or moments of tension feel powerful without saying a word, because emotional restraint reads as strength. It's a signal that says, I can handle life, I can handle you. But the modern man has been trained to believe the opposite. He's told to express everything, to confess, to cry, to always be transparent. He mistakes emotional transparency for emotional maturity. He believes that the more he shares, the deeper the connection becomes. But the truth is, most of that sharing comes from a place of insecurity, a craving for validation disguised as vulnerability. You see, there's a difference between expressing emotion and projecting it. The confident man can express pain without making it someone else's problem. He can feel fear without transmitting it as weakness. He can acknowledge sadness without expecting comfort. That's the emotional discipline that modern women unconsciously respect, because that's the discipline of a leader. It's not about pretending to be strong. It's about mastering your inner world so thoroughly that nothing external can dictate it. That's what the emotionless man understands. He doesn't fight his emotions. He owns them. He can sit in silence with anger until it becomes clarity. He can experience heartbreak and still move with purpose. He can desire deeply and yet not become desperate. That is the difference between a boy and a man. In a world that rewards reaction, stoicism is rebellion. Every man is told to chase, to explain, to prove himself, to show he cares. But the truth is, the moment you start chasing emotional validation, you've already lost her respect. Because women aren't attracted to men who need reassurance. They're attracted to men who give it through their energy. The man who doesn't react when tested, the man who doesn't break when rejected, the man who doesn't change his tone just because someone else changes theirs. Every man will eventually face a moment where a woman tests his frame. Maybe she'll question his confidence. Maybe she'll withdraw affection. Maybe she'll try to provoke a reaction. Most men panic in that moment. They text more, argue, plead, explain. But the emotionless man doesn't chase. He remains silent. He lets the silence work, and that silence becomes his power. Because she feels it, not as indifference, but as strength. Here's the irony. Women respect emotionless men, not because they want to be ignored, but because they want to feel a man's emotional leadership. They want to know that when life gets heavy, he won't crumble. That when she's emotional, he won't mirror her chaos. Because when she can feel his stability, she feels safe enough to be emotional. The feminine opens only when the masculine contains. The confident man doesn't fear vulnerability. He just doesn't outsource it. He doesn't need to cry in front of her to prove he feels. His emotion is in his actions, in his discipline, his focus, his calmness under pressure. That's real strength. That's why women follow such men. Not because they're emotionless, but because they're unshakable. So when she says she respects emotionless men, what she really means is this: I respect men whose emotions don't control them. She respects men who can feel pain but still lead. Men who can love deeply but still walk away when disrespected. Men who can be kind without being weak and strong without being cruel. The modern woman has seen too many men break under the weight of their own need for validation. She's seen too many men confuse love with emotional dependence. So when she meets a man who's in control of his inner world, it feels foreign, it feels mysterious, it feels powerful. That's why she respects him, because he's rare. The emotionless man doesn't play games, he doesn't manipulate. He simply refuses to give his emotional energy away cheaply. He understands that emotional energy is currency, and he invests it wisely. Because every time you over-explain, over-express, or overreact, you're spending energy you can never get back. But when you hold that energy, when you contain it, people start to feel your presence instead of your need, And that's when respect begins. Every woman tests a man emotionally. Not because she wants to destroy his confidence, but because she wants to feel it. She wants to see what he's made of. She wants to know if his calm is real or just an act. These tests aren't logical, they're instinctive. It's her subconscious searching for proof that he can handle her emotions without collapsing. Because if he can't handle her, he can't lead her. It's the little moments that reveal it. She starts an argument over something small, not to hurt you, but to feel your emotional weight. She pulls away when you want closeness, not to reject you, but to see if your sense of self will break. She gives you silence, not to punish you, but to see what you do with it. Every test is asking the same silent question: are you the storm, or are you the sky above it? The man who reacts emotionally fails the test without even realizing it. He takes everything personally. He tries to fix her feelings, to prove his love, to explain himself into understanding. But the moment you try to earn her peace, you lose your own, because your emotional reaction confirms her fear that you're not stable, that she can shake you, that you need her validation to stand tall. And once that happens, respect fades quietly. The emotionless man doesn't play that game. When she tests him, he doesn't flinch. He sees it for what it is, an emotional storm looking for an anchor. So he doesn't argue, he doesn't beg, he doesn't get defensive. He stays grounded, focused, composed. His silence isn't avoidance, it's mastery. It's his way of saying, you can bring your chaos here, but it won't change who I am. That's what makes her feel safe in a way she can't describe. Because his stillness tells her that his emotions aren't dictated by hers, that he's not ruled by her moods, her words, or her approval, and that stability becomes intoxicating. It allows her to relax, to surrender, to trust his presence. Because true masculinity isn't about dominance, it's about containment. The ability to hold chaos without losing form. But here's the part most men miss. Emotional control isn't suppression, it's transformation. You don't deny your feelings, you direct them. Anger becomes clarity. Rejection becomes focus. Pain becomes fuel. When you master that alchemy, you stop reacting and start leading. You stop needing control because you are control. And that's when she looks at you differently, not as a man trying to impress her, but as a man she can't shake. Modern women have been taught to be self-sufficient, to be strong, to never need a man. And yet the deeper truth is that they still crave a man whose strength doesn't compete with theirs but complements it. A man who doesn't get lost in emotional chaos. A man who can meet her intensity without being consumed. That's why she respects emotionless men. Because in a world where everyone reacts, his stillness feels like leadership. When you stay calm during her emotional storms, something shifts inside her. Her anger loses power, her chaos loses momentum. Because your stillness becomes the mirror that forces her to confront herself. You don't lecture her, you don't correct her, you simply refuse to participate in emotional warfare. That's the quiet authority of the masculine. Unspoken, unprovable, undeniable. And it's not just in relationships. This same principle applies everywhere. People respect those who can stay centered under pressure. The world bends for those who don't flinch. Whether in business, conflict, or love, emotional control is the ultimate form of influence, because the person who controls their emotions controls the interaction. Think about it. When someone tries to provoke you and you don't react, who actually holds the power? When someone insults you and you stay calm, whose energy dominates the moment? Power isn't in volume, it's in composure. And the man who learns to master that energy becomes magnetic, not because he tries to attract, but because he becomes impossible to shake. Women feel this power more intensely than anyone else. It's not about fear or dominance, it's about polarity. The feminine opens when it feels the masculine's certainty. When she knows that no matter how emotional she becomes, you'll stay grounded. When she knows that your love isn't conditional on her behavior, that's when admiration replaces resistance. That's when respect turns into attraction. The truth is, emotionless men aren't actually without emotion. They're just fluent in it. They understand that feelings are waves. They rise, they crash, they pass. Most men drown in them. Confident men surf them. Emotionless men become the ocean. They feel everything, but nothing owns them. That's why she looks at him differently. Because he reminds her of something she can't control but deeply craves: stability wrapped in mystery. He's not distant, he's deliberate. And that's what makes her lean in, not because he's withholding affection, but because his energy says one thing: I choose peace over panic, power over reaction, purpose over emotion. That's why she respects him, not because he feels less, but because he feels better. The first step to mastering emotional control isn't to stop feeling, it's to stop reacting. You have to understand that emotions are signals, not instructions. They exist to inform you, not to command you. Most men live at the mercy of their feelings. They let anger dictate their tone, fear dictate their choices, desire dictate their behavior, and every time they do, they lose a piece of their power. Emotional mastery begins when you separate feeling from action. When you can feel jealousy, but not act possessive. When you can feel sadness, but not collapse into neediness. When you can feel anger, but still speak with calm precision. That's what makes a man magnetic. Not the absence of emotion, but the discipline to channel it consciously. You want to know why women respect men who seem emotionless? Because it's rare to meet someone whose emotions don't control them. Most people are reactors, not responders. They live in survival mode, always defending, explaining, justifying. The emotionless man lives in creator mode. He observes before he moves. He listens before he speaks. His power comes from patience, not pressure. But here's the nuance that separates real strength from emotional suppression. The emotionless man isn't numb. He just feels deeply alone first. Before he shares his emotion, he processes it. He lets it pass through him. He sits with it, studies it, understands it. He doesn't rush to vent or dump it on others. And that quiet processing is what turns emotion into wisdom. Because wisdom is just emotion digested properly. When you can do this, you stop depending on women for emotional grounding. You become your own anchor. That's when you start to lead, not perform. Because true masculine energy doesn't come from dominance, it comes from direction. You stop reacting to her moods and start guiding the emotional tone of the relationship. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. You don't reflect energy, you regulate it. That's what women subconsciously crave, a man who can hold space for her emotion without being consumed by it. She doesn't want you to match her intensity. She wants you to balance it, because when she cries, panics, or lashes out, what she's really doing is searching for polarity. She wants to feel your calm. She wants to feel your stability. She wants to feel that no matter how chaotic she becomes, your presence won't disappear. But let's be clear, emotional mastery isn't indifference, it's power under control. The man who shuts down completely isn't strong, he's wounded. The man who can stay open and grounded is rare, because emotional control without compassion becomes coldness, and coldness might command obedience, but it never inspires respect. The goal isn't to build walls, it's to build foundations. Think of it like a sword. If it's too rigid, it breaks. If it's too soft, it bends. The perfect sword has balance, flexibility, and sharpness, precision and restraint. Your emotions are the same. Too much repression, and you become robotic. Too much expression, and you become chaotic. But the man who finds the middle, the one who can feel everything and still move with clarity, that's the man the world follows. In dating, this energy is irresistible, because when a woman sees that your sense of peace isn't dependent on her approval, she relaxes. She can finally be herself. She doesn't need to test you, to challenge you, to poke your ego, because she feels your center is strong enough to hold her emotions too. That's when her feminine truly awakens. Not from words, not from promises, but from presence. Presence is emotional leadership. It's when you walk into a room and people adjust to your energy, not the other way around. It's when your tone carries calm authority, when your silence feels heavier than someone else's shouting. That's what the emotionless man embodies. Not emptiness, but control so refined it radiates confidence without effort. To get there, you have to train your nervous system like a muscle. You have to learn to breathe in tension instead of reacting to it. When something triggers you, pause, observe the sensation, let the emotion move through your body, then choose your next action deliberately. Every time you do this, you're rewiring your brain to stay centered under stress. You're building emotional muscle. Over time, this becomes your natural state. You stop getting pulled into drama, arguments, or emotional games. You start choosing silence over reaction, observation over assumption, direction over distraction. And that's when people begin to treat you differently, not because you demand respect, but because you embody it. Women especially will feel this difference immediately. They'll notice that they can't manipulate your attention with mood swings. They'll notice that you don't seek validation when they pull away. They'll notice that your energy feels grounded, almost mysterious. And that mystery isn't about secrecy, it's about depth. Because a man who controls himself always leaves people wondering what he's thinking, what he's planning, and how he stays so composed. That's what modern women respect. Not emotionless men in the literal sense, but men who can master their own emotions in a world addicted to reaction. They respect men who can feel everything without losing themselves, because that kind of man doesn't just make them feel safe, he makes them feel admiration. At some point, every man realizes that emotional control isn't about women at all. It's about power. Power over your mind. Power over your impulses. Power over the parts of you that used to sabotage everything good in your life. Because once you master yourself, everything else, success, respect, attraction, becomes a natural consequence. The emotionless man isn't born that way. He's forged through experience, through pain that once broke him, through rejection that once defined him, through lessons that forced him to stop reacting and start understanding. He's the man who's been humiliated, ignored, dismissed, and instead of becoming bitter, he became unshakable, because he learned something most people never do. Emotions are fuel, not fate. Every outburst, every heartbreak, every disappointment becomes data. Instead of drowning in it, he studies it. He doesn't suppress pain, he uses it as resistance training. Every time he controls a reaction, he strengthens his presence. Every time he refuses to chase validation, he builds self-respect. Every time he chooses stillness over chaos, he sharpens his masculine edge. That's why the world bends to calm men, because calm men are dangerous. They don't fight for control, they are control. Modern society glamorizes emotional overexposure. Every emotion must be tweeted, confessed, dissected. But the man who can feel deeply without broadcasting it has become a rarity. That's why his silence feels powerful. Because in a culture obsessed with oversharing, mystery is magnetic. A man who doesn't reveal everything keeps people guessing, and what people can't fully read, they can't control. Women feel that mystery differently. It activates something ancient in their psychology, a respect that borders on fascination. Because his restraint signals mastery. He could explode, but he doesn't. He could chase, but he won't. He could explain, but he chooses silence. That discipline speaks louder than any words. It says, I have emotions, but they don't own me. And that's the sentence that separates a king from every other man. The emotionless man doesn't live disconnected from emotion. He lives above it. He doesn't suppress the storm. He observes it from the eye. He's calm because he's seen chaos before, and he knows it passes. He's patient because he's learned that reactions only feed what he doesn't want. And he's respected because his composure exposes the instability in others. People trust him without knowing why. They feel safe in his presence because his energy whispers certainty. This kind of emotional mastery rewires not just how women see you, but how the world treats you. You'll notice that opportunities start flowing toward you. People begin asking for your opinion, your guidance, your leadership. Because emotional steadiness is the foundation of influence. The man who cannot be provoked cannot be controlled, and that's what real freedom feels like. Calm power that no one can take away. When you reach that level, relationships change too. You stop negotiating for respect. You stop explaining your worth. You stop fighting for peace, because now peace follows you. You don't demand loyalty. You inspire it. You don't chase attraction. You create it through the gravity of your self-control. That's what modern women respect most. The man whose emotional discipline commands their attention without asking for it. And when she looks at you, really looks at you, she doesn't just see a man who's calm. She sees a man who's conquered himself. A man who doesn't flinch under pressure. A man who feels everything yet reveals nothing until it matters. That kind of man doesn't seek admiration. It finds him. Because respect is the natural language of power, and power always belongs to the man who controls himself. So when people call you emotionless, take it as a compliment. Because what they really mean is that you're unreadable, unshakable, untouchable. You're no longer reacting to the world, you're directing it. And that's the quiet truth most men will never understand. The ultimate form of masculinity isn't control over others, it's control over yourself. A woman may love many men in her life, but she will only respect the one whose emotions never own him. The man who can love deeply without losing direction. The man whose calmness feels like a fortress. The man whose silence says more than others shouting ever could. Because in the end, it's not the loudest man who wins her respect. It's the man who doesn't need to prove anything at all. That's why modern women respect emotionless men. Not because they're cold, but because they're rare. Because in a world that worships reaction, the man who can stay still becomes godlike. And when you become that man, you won't just earn her respect, you'll never need to ask for it again.